Adolfo here, your host for Work in Progress. This episode, I don't even know, it's probably number 13. And
Mhm.
today I have Mr. Drew Wilson from the Sunshine State of Florida. And he's a heavy hitter here at Team BC. So this podcast talks about how you got to where you are and what the journey looked like or looks like still,
Mhm.
right? Because as the title of my podcast says, we are all working or a work in progress, right? We're always working to get better.
Mhm.
We're always working to become better communicators, to become better salespeople, better siblings, whatever the case may be, right? Ideally, right? Not everyone wants that,
Right.
but ideally, if you become a better person in certain aspects of your life, you want to make sure that that reflects on all other aspects of your life, right?
Of course. Of course.
So,
Absolutely.
so for you guys listening and watching this video, so Drew and I met through Brian Casella, our coach, a mentor. Very interesting because we live in on the other side of the country, right? I live here in California. Drew lives in Florida. And if it wasn't for Team BC, we would have never met. Uh, Good guy, Drew. So what we're going to be talking about, let me ask you this. When did you start real estate and why?
Yeah. Well, technically, I started real estate March of 2020. I got my license about halfway through the month um, with Keller Williams. And why was, to take complete control over my future, to kind of utilize the skills that I had accumulated over the years and use them in a way that not only I could help people, but also I could make a pretty good living if I am, very good at it. Um, so I always, in the back of my mind, thought of it as something that, if you do it well, you could make a lot of money. And so that obviously is a huge driving factor for me, just, being able to create financial freedom. Um, but also, it's a job that you can create a lot of relationships in, which I really like building relationships. So it kind of has a little bit of everything,
So,
as long as you're good
so
at it.
that's right. You build relationships, Drew, and at the same time, if you're like Drew, you're gonna start making a lot of money.
Yeah.
you know,
Now we're talking.
just Drew, just so people know, can you please tell us how many deals you have going on right now? So you said 1.6 million in volume, right?
Yeah, in the
Now,
last 2 months.
perfect in the last 2 months. Now, for some people, depending on where you are and what part of the country, that doesn't sound like too much, right? But can you
Mhm.
tell us what the average price point is in your area?
Yeah, the average price point here is a little over 260,000. And so I was fortunate enough to have a couple transactions that were above 300 grand. So I had one that was like a little over 370, and then one that was a little over 400. And then I had a couple of smaller ones.
So does that
But
mean that
yeah,
you have around anywhere between 6 and 8 transactions right now that you closed?
yeah, six total.
6. Well, not too bad, huh? You can live with that, right? Six in
Right,
two
right.
months.
And yeah, we're gonna try and really stack that up and make six look silly the next time, you know?
Of course, it's gonna be a joke. And I remember, bro. I remember, bro, when we were talking last year over in Florida. Um, so let's take it back to November
20?
2020. I remember talking to
Mm,
you. You had nothing at that time, right? You didn't have any deals.
right,
And
nothing.
all
Yeah.
of a sudden, all that hard work and dedication you've been putting through the months exploded, right?
Work in progress, bro.
Work in progress, exactly. Work in progress. So for any of you guys listening who want to get into real estate or any sales job, it's just a matter of time, right? Trust the process. I know it sounds silly and cliche, but trust the process. You're putting in all the work. It's like you're filling in this bucket, and at some point, it's gonna overflow, right?
Yeah. I think it's important to know that even though that stuff does sound kind of cliche and people think that, trust the process or, just follow the method or follow the path type of thing. It is, especially when you follow someone like Brian, like you and I, it is laid in front of us, and all we have to do is just work, and put forth the effort. Because even if you're really bad and you put forth a lot of effort, you're going to get not too bad in a short amount of time. I talked about that with Brian on a different podcast, and he mentioned that, by doing so many doors, it was like 4,000 or 5,000 doors in 2 months that I knocked, drastically reduced my learning curve. And so I was able to obviously speed that process up a little bit. It might take some people a little longer to get the momentum rolling, but yeah, definitely trusting the process, because it took a couple of months of just prospecting and following up in order to even start seeing really any progress.
Yeah, and then,
let alone closings.
That's right. So there's I guess different points to it, right? Progress, meaning that it takes some time for you to get better, right? Now, besides that, it's gonna take some other time to get deals, right?
Oh yeah.
And sometimes
Yeah.
you gotta go through the process of getting better first and then get the deals. Now you may get not lucky, but you may have cases in which you get a deal while you're still learning, which happened to me at the beginning. It was a referral from a family member. It was a buyer, and luckily it was a referral because I had no idea what I was doing, but he was okay with it. Back then, I had a partner in which he was helping me through a transaction, so I learned so much right there. But
Yeah.
if I was on my own at that point, I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't been able to close anything. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm super lucky to have, all the people that I have around me to kind of ask questions and stuff. Because the first several months in the business in real estate, before I switched to EXP, I was, very lost. So I didn't really feel like I was making a lot of progress. And yeah, ever since I just kind of started focusing and doing things little by little, and I noticed a little bit of progress in myself, and then one thing led to the other, and statistically speaking, it was a matter of time before I got one of those deals.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, no, Drew is a gym addict.
Love it.
He
Love
loves
it.
it. So he knows that just I was working out, right? It's just time.
Yeah,
You gotta do it all the time, every day, and
it's
eventually,
definitely not a one step process. It's
exactly.
the small things over a long period of time.
That's right. So if you want to get swole like Drew, and you want to get business like Drew, make sure you follow him on his Instagram. But Drew, thanks, brother. So that's how you started real estate and why, right? Now, when you first started real estate, you said that you were lost, had no direction. Now, at
Yeah.
what point did you decide, like, hey, that's it? Like, were you gonna give it a few months and say, like, maybe if in 2 months I don't see any results, then I'm moving on doing something else? And also, at some point, did you have the thought of giving up and doing something else besides real estate?
So at no point in time did I ever think about quitting real estate.
That's great.
And that I can say that truthfully, even though I got pretty hard on myself around like the 4th or 5th month into my career, you would say. I got licensed, and then 4 or 5 months later, I just started to feel like time was running out. Like I was sitting there paying for month after month of rent and utilities and food, and just, I was feeling extremely stressed. And I really would say that I just felt like the time was like you're watching a what is it, like an hourglass. I just felt like my time was running out,
Mhm.
and I started to get desperate, I guess you would say, um, and started to just kind of like look anywhere, everywhere, trying to find what would get me kind of going.
So let me, before you continue, let me ask you right there.
Yeah,
So you felt that way. So how do you overcome that thought?
that's a not so simple answer. um, Truthfully, it's about like leaning into and embracing that scary side of like I don't want to say of like entrepreneurship, but I guess you could make that case for any job whenever
Hmm.
things aren't going well and there's like the thought of failure or the doubt. And you kind of know from this business, it's like you have to lean all the way in if you're full time and then expect the results to start, popping up in 4, 5, 6 months or so. Um, so I think truly it's like digging down deep to your core and figuring out why you're in the business, like why you started it or why you started what you started, whatever the job may be. And so for me, it was kind of like analyzing head on what my main goal was, and digging deep like within myself, I guess, to just suck it up and get through it.
So
I
you,
mean, there's kind of like only so much you can do before you're like you're forced with a rock and a hard place. You got to either work and grind it out or you won't make it. So I guess I was just like ready to get somewhere. Failure wasn't really an option.
that's good, bro. No, on that, actually, I can relate. When I first started, like, I had no deals for the first maybe 6 months. I had no idea what I was doing. I was making the calls, even though I didn't know what I was doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, actually, I did get a lead, which eventually turned into a listing, which I got help from a previous team member. Um, but anyhow, I can relate to what you're saying right now, because even though I never went back think about my why, because that's what you say, right? You went to think about why am I doing this. In my mind, I was more like, I'm not a quitter, I don't have a plan B, and I didn't. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times in my life I have plan B, like, okay, if this job doesn't work out, I'm gonna do this, right? But I didn't have a plan B on purpose.
Yeah.
And
I think that
Tony Robbins says that, like, no,
I mean, that's good. It's like, I know that Brian Casella talks about that too, when he talks about, um, you know, being still, remaining stagnant is not really an option. It's you're either moving backwards or forwards. And if you have something to kind of catch your fall, you're more likely to stay in that less aggressive, moving backwards. And when people are like forced between like literal nothing and like getting off the ground, usually it's that last minute before they start to make that effort.
yeah, and to be honest, I was very comfortable with the point where I was, because even though I had no job, I had saved a lot of money, uh, because I knew I wanted to do my own or have my own business. Now,
Hmm.
not sure if you ever thought about that, but I had never thought about real estate. I was thinking about like opening up a shop or whatever the case may be. Everything that I needed required a lot of money up front, and I didn't have that much money.
Sure.
It's not like I had 100,000 in the bank. No, I didn't. So okay, so I started talking to people. Met a guy who does real estate. Came out to an event. I liked it. Took the class. Signed up and started real estate. So wait, I got a little
Have you
lost, bro.
yeah, have
So
you always lived out in California? You're talking
uh,
about.
no, actually, so I've been living in LA since 2007. I was born and raised in South America.
Okay.
So I moved to LA when I was around 20. So I already told my age. I was around 20, and then throughout the time, just so if you guys want to know my story, I had many jobs. I had to do the correct thing and go to college.
Sure.
So if Season, that's the name of my school. If you're listening to this, I want my money back. um, yeah, because I mean, I went to school, but I went to film school. I never did film. Reason why is because I graduated and I needed the money to pay for bills. I started doing a sales job, and ever since I like sales.
Yeah.
Reason number one is because you get paid for what you produce. I didn't like other jobs in which I do all the work and they get paid the same that I do, or vice versa, right? I never liked that, and that's when I started seeing more and more. First, I was salary plus commission until I moved into jobs that were all commission, and
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
if I don't produce, I don't eat. So that kind of pushes you a lot. On the good side, you make more money if you
Oh
sell.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you're like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Ever since, it's funny, that you talk about, yours was a much bigger move. I think a big part of me moving from Illinois to Florida,
Mhm.
like 5, 6 years ago, I think that eliminated a lot of plan B for me. Even though technically a plan B could be like moving back to Illinois, right? And like
Yeah.
crashing with friends or family or something. Um, yeah, it's a pretty drastic plan B, like relocating my entire life back to where I grew up. Um, so in my mind, that's not an option. And so I don't have a plan B. Like if something doesn't work out for me here, I don't have anything to fall back on here. So
Which,
that to me is another reason where it's like I just quit, my job getting into real estate to do it full time. It wasn't working out. And then I was thinking to myself, like, what do I have to do to get this where I thought it was going to be? Like, this is not matching my vision, right? Of when I wanted to. And so I knew I had to make another change, even though I had just left my job to do real estate full time. Um, I think it was just the mindset, like we're talking about now, kind of bringing it back, was just needing to keep going, and there's no plan B. So in my mind, it was like I was faced with an initial adversity, and then thought to myself, this is not the end. Like I got to figure this out, and that's how I came to find BC.
yeah, it's crazy, bro. That's very interesting. Figuring things out, because a lot of people, like I said, that was me back in the day. I always had a plan B, because in my mind that was the right thing to do. Right? Okay, if one thing doesn't work out, well, I have another option. Right? Now, like I said, getting into real estate because I knew I wanted to have my own business. I'm like, I went into real estate. I'm not gonna lie, I'll be honest. I have thought about quitting real estate many times. Now, I've never done it. I never quit it. Like say, like that's it. I'm grinding my stuff and go. Never. Like you see me in the office here every
Mm-hmm.
day working. Whether I feel like shit, or I feel amazing, I feel good. I'm still here. Today it wasn't the best day for me. I was feeling physically tired. Yet I still made my calls. I recorded like 3 videos, and I'm here with you right now. So, regardless of how you feel, you still got to put in the work. Okay.
100%.
100%. Now, with that being said, the good news is that I'm getting a deal today, even though I feel like shit. So that's good news.
You did get one?
I'm expecting a call right now, so I'm getting a deal. So that tells you guys that even if you don't feel like doing it, just by you putting in the work, like Drew said, you will get something, right?
100%. That's
100%.
100% true. I think
100%.
that 100%. And especially once you start tracking all of your numbers and how many calls and how many doors and just about how many calls it takes to get a contact or just about how many doors it takes to get someone's information, it starts to become more of a reliable system to where you can expect the results. And so that just by putting in the numbers and putting in the calls and doors, you will run into business. So you just have to keep doing it.
Now, talking about business, Drew, where do you see yourself in the next 2 to 5 years,
Hmm.
business wise?
Um, I want to do hardcore real estate for the next 2 to 3 years, I would say.
You
Like
mean you're doing the
improving
same,
my
right?
skills.
Uh huh.
Yep. Continuing as I am, improving my skills. And I hope to have an assistant by then. I will definitely have an assistant by then. Um, I will potentially be a mentor with EXP, some type of mentorship that I would like to start helping new agents like myself get on their feet. Um, the goal is to start basically my own, not really a team, but I want to have a couple people that work with me or for me. So I guess you would call it a team, but I still see myself learning from Brian and being, part of whatever he's got going on. Um, yeah, I just think a lot of the same thing for me in my future, a lot of business,
That means
a
you
lot of
like it.
dedication to, Yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly happy doing this, and over time, I'll just get better at it.
Of course, that's the plan. I mean, if we're not getting better, we're getting worse.
100%, 100.
100. All right, brother. So we're gonna keep this short and sweet. Before we finish, if people want to reach out to you, before anyone knows, Drew is in Lakeland, Florida, right? So if you guys are looking to do any real estate business or personal training or meal prep delivery,
Ooh.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
You
no. We got a little bit of this, we got a little bit of that.
yeah.
Lakeland, man. If anybody knows somebody in this area that needs some assistance with anything real estate related, Lakeland is like right in the middle of Florida. So if you got people in Orlando, Tampa, all in between, let me know. I'm your guy. And my Instagram, if you guys want to find me, is at Wilson Drew FL. That's where you can find me.
Cool. All right, brother. Well, it was great talking to you, Drew, again. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you very soon.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me, Adolfo.
Peace out.